Hello, welcome to the Tortured Poets department. My name is Pixie. I usually make videos about the art I make and the books I read. Today I want to talk about the Tortured Poets department by Taylor Swift. It has book relevance, and a lot of it, and I want to just give like a brief intro to that. There is a lot more to say than I'm going to be able to cover in this video because I don't have limitless time to do research for this, unfortunately. I truly wish that I did. Anyway, so this is by nature going to be incomplete, but please see it as like an appetizer to encourage you to start looking into these things more and maybe listen more to Taylor Swift if you didn't realize that Miss Girl is a book reader and a nerd. So I took today off to listen to Tortured Poets, and I spent my whole afternoon making a spreadsheet tracking all of the biggest themes and sort of recurring imagery. I didn't include relationships or love as themes because I'm just not very interested in that. A theme I didn't track but maybe should have is secrets, but I believe that would have been like around 5 mentions or something. So let's talk about what the biggest themes are in terms of these things are mentioned, used as like metaphors and stuff. By far the winner is death, including things such as ghosts, phantoms, graves, with 20 mentions, or I should say mentions in 20 songs out of 31 songs. That is a lot. And when we continue down the list of the sort of top most common themes, it's only gonna get more gothic. So the next with mentions in 15 songs is judgment. Sometimes it's Taylor or, the protagonist of the song being judged, and in, I believe, 2 instances, she's the one doing the judging, which I personally love when she does that. Next on the list is captivity/restraints, with mentions in 13 songs. And we have religious mentions or imagery in also 13 songs. Insanity, or, being crazy, etc., is mentioned in 11 songs out of the 31. And also in 11 songs, we have water/natural disasters. So I included cyclone and hurricane in this category. And the last one I felt I could include was drugs/medicine. And I do count alcohol in the drugs category, which is in 10 songs. So this album is gothic as fuck. Like, if we look at the gothic fiction genre, some key themes are, besides, death and ghosts, of course, being trapped, like say, in a spooky castle. And another big theme is not knowing if you're actually like being haunted or if you're just imagining things and you're just crazy. So that's the insanity theme. And I would argue that sort of religious guilt and judgment and repressed sexuality is very gothic as well. Although on the album, we mostly get repressed sexuality in one song, Guilty as Sin, but the judgment part that is so common typically is about relationships in some way. So I feel like that still like fits and ties together with the general judgment theme. And speaking of judgment, we also have a bit of a mad woman theme with Who's Afraid of Little Old Me and Cassandra, which corresponds to the sort of female horror that it's heavily present in the gothic genre. So I am really excited as a gothic fiction girly, as emo Swiftie, if you will. I'm loving this album. Something I find interesting about this album, because I counted 11 literary references in total, some like classic Greek mythology, some other classics, but in the title song, Tortured Poets Department, she name drops Dylan Thomas, and Patti Smith, and Chelsea Hotel, generally like hipster approved artists, but then says, we're not like them, we're modern idiots. I don't know, I think it's really interesting because it feels like she's distancing herself from like being pretentious, while at the same time she kind of is. But I do love that because I feel like I probably do a bit of the same because I want to be approachable and not an asshole. But I do also like to talk about my pretentious shit sometimes. Also, before we get into the like actual references, I'm doing this by like track list order, so Torture Post Department was first. And then in Guilty as Sin, I don't think this is like a deliberate reference, but it gave me such strong Locked Tomb vibes that I just had to mention it. Like the repressed sexuality and Catholic guilt of it all, but also mentioning a grave and then going, what if I rolled a stone away? They're gonna crucify me anyway. I mean, also the whole chorus being, what if it's only in my mind? Like, if you have read Harrow the Ninth, you know what I mean. It's very Locked Tomb. It's so Locked Tomb. But okay, on to actual references. Who's Afraid of Little Old Me is an allusion, I think, to Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which is an allusion to Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf. Maybe Taylor is alluding to Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf, but I choose to believe that she's referencing Virginia Woolf, so I'm including it. Then in Clara Bow, we have Beauty is a Beast, which is, of course, a play on Beauty and the Beast. And I love that line, by the way, because I feel like it really gets into the objectification part of the mad woman theme. And it's also just like a really good line. Beauty is a beast that roars down on all fours, demanding more. Like, it just keeps rhyming, it's so good. Speaking of fairy tales, there are a few other fairy tale things on this album, and also a couple of like kids' rhymes type of things. I'm not gonna get into those things and what they mean in this video, but they are there. And then we come to the Albatross, which is just like a huge fucking thing. So I'm just gonna pull up Wikipedia and we can read it together. The word albatross is sometimes used metaphorically to mean a psychological burden, most often associated with guilt or shame, again, that feels like a curse. It is an allusion to Samuel Taylor Coleridge's poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. And in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which I have here, Robert Walton mentions the poem by name and says of an upcoming journey that I shall kill no albatross. Charles Baudelaire also has a poem called The Albatross about men on ships who catch the albatrosses for sport. In the final stanza, he goes on to compare the poets to the birds exiled from the skies and then weighed down by their giant wings till death, which is very dramatic but really fits with the whole tortured poets theme. So I love this so much. And when you listen to the song, it's very much like, yeah, she's an albatross, she's gonna destroy you. So I love that Taylor knows this shit. I didn't know about the albatross metaphor. I'm learning things. And I just, thank you, Dr. Taylor Ellison Swift. Then, in So High School, which isn't my favorite song, but it has like a jaunty little guitar thing that I like. She references A Wrinkle in Time, which she has referenced before and it's different. I haven't read that, so I can't say anything about that. But we also have the incredible line, you know how to ball, I know Aristotle. Okay, Taylor. And I hate it here. We have Secret Garden, which I also haven't read, so I also can't really comment on, but there it is. Then in Thank You, Amy, what I'm interested in is the Sisyphus reference with kept rolling the boulder up the hill. I think that's cool of her. Then we get to something that a lot of people have been talking about on social media, which is in the song The Prophecy, the statue of Diana or Artemis that crumbled on her way to London due to neglect. And yes, that statue was in the Tortured Poets installation in Los Angeles. And Taylor's just so sick and twisted, and I do mean that as a compliment. I love her deeply. As I said to my lover earlier, Swifties work hard, but Taylor Swift herself works harder. And the Greek mythology is not over, because we also have Cassandra, who is a figure from Greek mythology who was cursed by Apollo to make accurate predictions, but no one would believe her. And that is exactly what the song is about. She gets a whole entire song to herself. Again, the mad woman undercurrent of this album. The song Peter is, I think, pretty obviously about Peter Pan. She talks about, growing up and coming to get her, waiting in a window, and then references Your Lost Boys. So, I wasn't sure if I should include the manuscript, because it doesn't have like a specific reference as such. It just references the writing of a book. But it also provides a good segue into my next section of the video, because it ends with the story no longer belongs to me. And that gets me thinking about the theme she started with Blank Space a decade ago, which was a satire about her public persona, what the character the press was writing about her. This album isn't giving satire to me, but it is giving, she's writing the mythology of her own public persona. Like, I think perhaps we should not take these as diary entries necessarily. Have fun with the boyfriend interpretations if that's how you like to engage with Taylor Swift, but I think it's more interesting to think of it as a mythology, where it's like, some of it probably has a base in reality, but it's, filtered through layers of, retellings, if you will. And I think that's cool. Otherwise, my general thoughts about the album. The bops are bopping, especially the first half of the album. I was dancing, but also it was very crying in the club vibes, which I do love. We love a good unity of opposites. There were so many addictive beats in that first half of the album. I love it. Also in the song Torture Poets, I love that she rhymes Smith with idiots. I think that's genius. I am obsessed with all her slant rhymes. She does that a lot, and I eat it up every single time. Speaking of that song, the line, "Who else decodes you?" is so fucking funny coming from Taylor Swift. Considering all the decoding we do as Swifties. Another theme that exists with this... Wait, did I bring that up earlier? The objectification theme? It's mentioned or alluded to in 9 songs, and I think it strengthens the mad woman theme I've been talking about. And My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys is, I think, a really obvious way of doing that. She's literally talking about the protagonist as an object. It's very blatant, but I do really like it. It also slightly concerning, being yeah, I'm a toy and he broke me. That sounds messed up. But I am of the belief that fictional media should be messed up and weird. So, I am a Locktomb fan and a gothic fiction reader, so. It also ties to captivity, because she's locked in the toy box and she sings that he took her out. Okay, So Long London, I can't talk too much about because the lyrics kind of broke me emotionally, but I just want to mention the churchy choir in the beginning. Are we at a funeral? What's going on? I suppose we are at a funeral for this relationship, or whatever it is, but I think that is also kind of sick and twisted of you, Taylor. Keep it up. What to say about But Daddy, I Love Him? It's so catchy and so fucking funny. The "I'm having his baby, no I'm not, but you should see your faces" is unhinged in the best way. That is hysterical. Overall, as a song, it's giving exaggeration, it's giving camp. I really enjoyed it. I obviously have to mention Florida and Florence and the Machine featuring, because that was beautiful. Loved the drums and loved Florence and Taylor singing together. Just 10 out of 10, no notes, except I don't know why Florida is a hell of a drug. I don't know what you're talking about, but I support it. It's like reading song lyrics is interesting because it's, for me, half like reading poetry where I try to just sort of let it wash over me and just feel the vibes and not worry too much, and half I like to read it as I read fiction and sort of dissect it. And Florida, I have to lean towards the second, where I just have to accept that Florida is a hell of a drug, and that's just the universe that we are living in this song, you know? Well, but I'm excited to see what kind of theories other people will come up with about that, because I'm sure they will. And I appreciate Swifties a lot for all the hard work that they do. Another favorite song of mine is Guilty as Sin. I did talk about it previously, but I also wanted to say that it feels a bit like it's taking a page out of Hoshier's book. I mean, listen to this. What if the way you hold me is actually what's holy? That's basically Take Me to Church. And I love it. I'm here for it. Good for Taylor. I Can Do It With a Broken Heart was both what I expected it to be and absolutely not what I expected it to be. I didn't expect it to be quite so manic and intense, but it's such a bop and it makes me want to dance, but I'm also slightly uncomfortable because it feels like Taylor is like leaning a bit too close to my face and is like screaming at me. Do you know what I mean? I hope you know what I mean. Overall, I am obsessed and I can't wait to learn more about all of these connections and maybe come up with some gothic fiction recommendations for the songs. I brought a little stack of gothic fiction with me just to sort of point to, and then I didn't do that. So here it is, and let's put the skull on top. There we go. Welcome to the Tortured Poets department. We are gothic. And yeah, this was my stack of poetry. What I would most recommend for Taylor Swift fans is Emily Dickinson, because as you probably know, if you're here, Taylor has referenced Emily Dickinson before, and there are connections to find, and also Emily Dickinson is just the goat. So I love that. I just can't wait to keep listening and then be like, I should have said a billion other things in that video, but I've only had not many hours. I can't count right now, sorry. I haven't had very many hours to do this, but I wanted to just share my thoughts. So I hope this gave you something. I hope you enjoyed. Please tell me all of your thoughts in the comments. Thank you. And thank you for spending time with me instead of listening to the Tortured Poets department. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. So thank you. I really appreciate it. Okay, take care.